You think Jay-Z or
Probably not a good time right now.
or you're silly, man. You're silly. You're wrong. You're silly, man. You're silly, man.
Go see if you can fix the wall, will you,
Fix the
Shaq?
wall, man.
Yeah, here, back here.
Fix the
I'll
wall,
go.
man.
Charges, accusations, allegations, everywhere. Everyone's getting hit. And continuing and finishing the no-cap cat season. He predicted much of this. You got multi-millionaire real estate agents, Talon, Orr, Alexander, and their brother Allen, all being arrested for sexual allegations and sexual trafficking. P. Diddy is currently behind bars, denied $50 to $100 million bail, all because of the SA allegations. You have mayors being hit up, like Mayor Adams. He's being hit with charges. Mayor Tiffany Henyard, the so-called super mayor, being hit with charges. Countless people are catching strays, and like I said, some are direct hit targets. YSL and the RICO, he was recently freed on, I believe, 20 years of probation after a long, lengthy trial, which should have been a mistrial. It was a scam and a sham. And I'm not even a YSL fan, but trust me, when I saw that trial, it was disgustingly shameful. Then you have charges on the former CEO Abercrombie and Fitch gentleman. He was recently released as well. But the most, shocking allegations, if you will, which have hit the airwaves was none other than that of Jay-Z, Sean Carter. Now I'm going to be very objective when I pour this juice. I've given my personal sentiments on the Jigga Man in previous videos. I'm going to leave that alone for now. I'm going to simply pour the juice. I'm going to put this into context as to what this is going on. Some are going to say, Bar, you're being very biased. No, I speak this in behalf of all of them, not just Jay. Trust me when I say. Okay, so I want to get right back to some historical context as to what's going on before we get back to the actual charges brought upon Jay-Z. Okay, so now we're looking at something which actually took place back in 1908. Back in 1910, if you will. I'll put it that way. And that is what has been alluded to in previous conversations, the Mann Act or the Mann Act laws. Go Google this if you want to. Simply states right here, the Mann Act, also known as the White Slave Traffic Act of 1910. We got to break that language down in time. But it's also known as the White Slave Traffic Act of 1910. It's a federal law that prohibits the transportation of people across state lines for the purpose of prostitution, debauchery, or other immoral practices. We got to look at this language. We'll continue. The Mann Act was named after the Illinois Congressman James R. Mann and passed in June 1910. It was a landmark piece of progressive era legislation. Why was this Mann Act law created? Let's get to this. Now we know that it was created in 1910. Numbers are not always subjective. Numbers are pretty objective for the most part. They can be subjectified, but numbers are generally objective. So we can see this law was passed in 1910. Nothing to really break down there. But let's look at the language briefly, if you don't mind. It's not only because the Mann Act law is known after the lawyer James Mann, or Congressman James Mann from Chicago, Illinois, the Illinois Congressman, but it's also known as the White Slave Act. Okay. The White Slave Traffic Act. Be more clear. What is a White Slave Traffic Act? What is that? In 1910. What is that, family? Were there white slaves in America? No. See, that's the lie that some of these people want to put out there. This law is not alluding to that. It's not referencing that nor talking about that. But I'm speaking about a specific group of people online who are chattel slavery denialists. They come up with the most ridiculous stories, such as Harriet Tubman was a fictional person. Okay, let me leave that alone for a second. The White Slave Traffic Act notes that there's a white person who is in slavery. Now, this law is done by an Illinois congressman in America. We discussed this in previous videos, that the original slaves of the world were actually Europeans, Eastern Europeans, but not Europeans living in America where that law would be made applicable. No. When you take the root word Slav out of slavery or slavery, you have Slav. Slavs are Eastern Europeans. The first slave traders and human traffickers were that of the Arabs, as they slave trafficked the Eastern Europeans. That's where you get that from, okay? But we're talking about the Slave Traffic Act in America around 1910. Let me explain to you where they conjured up this language. Be very clear. They deduced in their mind, and before I go there, let's go here. Let's go here. Before I go there, let's go here. Because this is where a lot of this begins, believe it or not. Jack Johnson. Yeah. Why Jack Johnson? How do you go from Jay-Z to Puff Daddy to the Mann Act to Jack Johnson? I'm about to explain. See that 1908? Jack Johnson became the first black heavyweight boxing champion in the world on December 26, 1908. You see that? This is 2 years before the Mann Law in 1910. Okay? 2 years before the Mann Law. It took them 2 years to create that Mann Law. Why did they create that Mann Law? They created the Mann Law because of Jack Johnson. They created the Mann Law because of Jack Johnson. Jack Johnson was an unbelievable force in America at that time. Not only was he knocking out every human being that stepped foot in the ring with him, becoming the first black heavyweight boxing champion in the world, not just that, but he would leave the arena with his white babes. Yeah. He was an OG swirler. He would leave the arena with his white girlfriends, his white babes, in his hot car, and you couldn't touch him. See that? You can't beat him. You can't beat him physically. You can't beat him economically. You can't beat him socially, right? So how do we beat a Jack Johnson? And how do we beat future Jack Johnsons? Men who are strong men, strong economically, strong socially, strong in their work, strong in their game, strong in their craft, to the degree that the average people really can't bring them down. So we have to create laws to begin to prohibit and slow down his activities. Make it plain, Bar. Okay, in a system of white racism, or in a caste system designed on race, where the black man is supposed to be at the bottom, how can I really control this man who is bigger, stronger, and have more money than I do, and more fame and more prestige than I do? And the women are highly attracted to him. That's, my friend, where they get that word from. Let's go back there now. Let's go back. See that? White slave. That's where they got that word from. It wasn't white slaves in America like it was black slaves in America under the chattel plantation system. No. What they were saying back then in 1910 was, they were saying Jack Johnson is too big, too black, too strong, too successful, too beautiful, and too attractive. Oh yes. And he has the ability and the physical prowess and economic prowess to seduce our women, thus making them into slave-like beings. They argued in court that the white women that he was with were not responsible for their own actions and decisions because of the black seduction was that strong. They argued in layman's terms, they were addicted to soul pole. Yes, family. Yes, this is real talk. This is real talk. They're saying This is a white slave traffic act. The white women could not control themselves because they were addicted to soul pole. Okay? So in order to slow a Jack, now listen to what I'm saying now. I didn't say to slow Jack Johnson down. I said to slow a Jack Johnson down. Are you following me? They set the stage in 1908 or 1910. It just continues over and over again through 2024. Now you may say, as I have said, Puff is a black Satanist. No doubt, we get that. But in the eyes of the white racist, he's a Jack Johnson. In the eyes of a white racist, Jay-Z's a Jack Johnson. In the eyes of a white racist, YSL are Jack Johnsons. Are you following me? The law was created for not just one Jack Johnson, it was created for the future Jack Johnsons. Now back to Jay-Z. Jay-Z says true justice is coming. After rape accuser admits to mistakes and allegations, this war was over before it began. I agree. And what Jay-Z did was very, very powerful, in my opinion. When the accusations came out, he simply said this. He said, the lawyers trying to blackmail me. It's a cash grab. And this was the most convincing point. If you say that I R-worded a 13-year-old child, my God today, if I did that, then this should not be settled in criminal court. This should be settled, not in a civil court. This should be settled in criminal court. I admit that if I did that, then I should be in jail. How about that one? And now when he put that out there and the accuser refused to let her identity to be acknowledged, this even put more cloud on it. And my last point is this. When you are in a position of a Jack Johnson, Jay-Z, or a Diddy, this is where Diddy made his mistake, you're going to need some white people around you to help you combat the white racists. Shout out to Roger Goodell, but no shout out to Roger Goodell. You feel me? I don't rock with Roger Goodell. But if I'm Jay-Z, I'm rocking with Roger Goodell because I'm going to have to use Roger Goodell's whiteness and his money to help defend me as we make money together against the white racists who are trying to bring my black ass down. Am I making sense, family? Am I making sense, family? Because this is exactly what happened. Before these mistakes and allegations were brought out just today, just like literally an hour ago, December 13th, 2024 at 6:30. 2 days ago, December 11th, the accusations was put out. December 12th, Thursday, Roger Goodell and the NFL said, no, we are not splitting ways with Jay. See, Roger Goodell knows I make way too much money with Jay-Z. Jay-Z knows Roger Goodell makes way too much money with me. They're not going to split ways off of allegations which cannot be substantiated. My last point is this. If someone comes up with the charges, they can at least show their face. All right? It's a lot of pushback on that. Show your face. Bring them out, bring them out. Bring them out, bring them out. Huh? In the words of Jigga, bring them out, bring them out. It's hard to yell when the barrel's in your mouth. Bring them out, bring them out. How you hiding behind the shadows with these type of accusations out your mouth? You can't be serious. Sean Carter, known as Jay-Z, is reacting to a new report from his rape accuser, that's disgusting, where she acknowledges she made some mistakes, recalling the allegations. Beyonce's husband shared a statement claiming true justice is coming and doubled down, saying the incident didn't happen. Go ahead, B. Appreciate you on that. Today's investigation report proves this attorney Busby, and this man needs to be seriously considered. Before someone brings up the accusations, I need to know the accuser. And you also need to know the attorney who is representing the accuser. Because from what I understand, Busby is a blackmailer, but he has not black skin. Busby filed a false complaint against me in pursuit of money and fame. Carter said in the statement shared by his company, Roc Nation, the incident did not happen, and yet he filled it in court and doubled down in the press. Huh? You understand? You understand? This is the spirit of the Mann law. I fly somebody out from my house from Florida to my house out here, disclosed location. I fly her out. She just come out 20 years later, say, he did this against my will. 20 years later, 30 years later, they knocking at my door because I paid for her airport ticket. So now you can classify me as a trafficker, a sexual trafficker. And that was the intention of the Mann law. The Mann law, when you read it, the laws are very, very vague intentionally. They're on purpose very vague. So I can hit someone with the law or charge them as I want to based upon my discretion. Are you following me? So if you're black enough, rich enough, famous enough, and I got one person in my deck who recalls a vague rainy day, a cloudy rainy, oh, I thought it might have been him, huh? Say his name once. That's what Busby said. Say his name. Say his name. Jigga, who you rolling with? Huh, my nigga. That's what Busby said. Say his name. We get paid. Jay said, nah, we ain't playing that game. We ain't playing that one. I don't blame him. If he did it, then jail you go. How about that one? I stand on it. Ain't nothing personal, then jail you go. But if the man said he didn't do it, bring the accuser out, and he says I'm being blackmailed, then what am I supposed to believe? Because I know the historical context on what they tried to do to minimize the opportunity of generational wealth being passed down to future times. You follow me? I'm done. Juiced.